99% of men will never get to that 10% body fat. If you've been in the gym for over a year and you're still sitting between 16 to 20% body fat, you don't have a discipline problem. You have a precision problem. Getting to 10%, it's actually not that hard, but you need to execute specific moves at specific times to get to 10%, but actually sustain it year round. Because getting to 10% once, it's not impressive. We want to live there and sustain that standard year round. And once you do it properly, you only ever have to diet once. And I want you to understand something. The body is actually a byproduct. The real win is the clarity, the confidence, the self-belief, the self-trust you build within yourself. The presence you have when you walk into a room, and when you look in the mirror, you know you're the man who is capable of going after what he wants because you've showed up for yourself. And in this video, I'm going to break down the common mistakes that every guy makes and the exact system that I've helped hundreds of men use to get to that 10% body fat and maintain 10% year round. And the first thing that I see, guys, is people slash their calories too soon, too quick, or they try to go aggressive too fast. And what happens? They end up crashing and burning. They go aggressive for 2 weeks, they fall off. 4 weeks, they fall off. And they always end up back in the same position, looking for a better time, looking for a different excuse. But the real issue isn't the timing, it's your approach. And what we need to do, and the non-negotiable, always, no matter what starting position you are, you have to start off your calories at maintenance. We want to have the food as high as possible before we then transition into that dieting phase. This is going to prime your body and allow you to essentially stabilize. So your body knows, okay, X amount of food is coming in, X amount of output is going out. Your body can then regulate and it can adapt to the amount of calories and adapt to the amount of output, which we will talk about. But your food is literally the foundation. If you're starting, let's say your baseline is here and you're starting your food down here, yes, you might lose a lot of body fat very, very quickly, but it's not going to be sustainable. Your energy is going to crash, your sleep's going to take a hit, your testosterone will dip quite quickly, and you're not going to be in a position to actually build or preserve the muscle tissue that you currently have. So what we need to do is we need to sit at that baseline. Once we sit there, this is the starting point, and then we can adjust your calories to suit. 2, 3, 4, 500, depending on your current position, is more than enough. But always start at maintenance calories. Don't go too aggressive too soon. And again, this is going to allow you to actually build muscle and reduce body fat at the same time. You have this unique little period at the start of the dieting phase where you can get stronger, you can build muscle, and you can actually improve your body composition. So you're building muscle, reducing body fat at the same time when you start off with your maintenance calories. And the second thing most guys do is they set unrealistic timelines. Or there's a Ibiza trip coming up with the boys in 8 weeks' time. You're 20% body fat and you're trying to get down to being absolutely peeled and looking like the man in an 8-week period. You're not leaving yourself enough time. And not just that, but it's the wrong mindset. We want to be in shape year round. We want to feel good, look good year round. So rather than setting a specific end date or a holiday or whatever it might be, set it as your life standard. Because as I said, once you walk around at that 10% body fat and you live at that standard, the benefits into every other area of your life massively improve. Into your career, your business, your relationships, your energy is higher, your cognitive function. So we don't look at it as just a goal. What we do is we become the man who walks around at 10% body fat. And when you make that shift from, I need to diet aggressively for a holiday, to this is who I am, that's when everything clicks. That's when everything changes. That's when it becomes identity level. And you can truly maintain that physique year round. So rather than setting unrealistic short timelines, give yourself a 6-month period where you say, okay, I'm at 20 to 16% body fat. I want to get to 10% body fat, but I want to actually be able to maintain it year round. I'm going to go in for 6 months, and I know after the 6 months, it's done. My diet's done. I don't have to diet again. I can maintain 10% body fat, and you can go on 12 holidays a year, and you can be in peak shape. So don't have a specific end date. Once you hit that, 9 times out of 10, you go on the holiday, you rebound, and you're back to square one anyway. So it's just this constant cycle. I need water. I'm getting worked up. The third thing, you're not training correctly. You're not following a set structure. You're going in doing random classes. You think a load of cardio is going to burn the calories. You're not prioritizing your training. You're not prioritizing progressive overload. So if you have been in a bit of a gaining phase and then you're coming into this dieting phase, but you're not continually trying to progress those lifts, what's going to happen? You're going to lose muscle tissue. You're going to become a skinnier version of yourself. If you pair not training correctly, not training hard with the correct intensity and following the right structure for you, you pair that with your nutrition being too aggressive, it's a breeding ground for muscle loss. It's going to be, you're going to end up looking worse. Your test is going to tank massively. You're going to end up looking skinny and you're just going to hate the process. So you need to make sure that you're following the set structure for your training, not randomly doing these different training splits. The same principles apply. You train hard, you train to failure, and you follow a set structure. Do not skip on this. Don't think just because you're in a deficit, you're eating enough protein, that you're going to strip off body fat. You will drop scales, weight on the scales 100%, but some of that is going to be muscle tissue. Again, that's the last thing we want. We want to build an aesthetic physique. We don't want to look like a skinny fat prick. An aesthetic physique, that's the aim of the game. When it comes to your cardio as well, another common mistake I see is people go so extreme with their cardio, 7 days a week, HIIT classes, conditioning classes, high rocks classes. Then it's actually taking away, they're getting so fatigued from the cardio side of things that their training is suffering. Their strength is decreasing too quickly. And again, muscle ground, breathe. I said it just a minute ago and I forgot it. And I say this every single day. Breeding ground for muscle lost. It came back to me. Cardio. Don't go too aggressive, don't go too extreme. Personally, I like cardio as well. I do boxing 2 times per week. I like to go for a run. You know, there's periods of time I've done high rocks and stuff, but don't put everything into that, especially if your goal is to get to 10% body fat. Your training, your diet needs to be foundation, and then your other output, which we'll talk about. But cardio, use it as a tool. It's not the be all and end all. It's not going to get you to where you want to get to alone, okay? So it's a tool that we use. But again, if we go too aggressive, if we go too extreme, it's just going to end up leaving you fatigued, which what's going to happen then? Your appetite's going to spike and then you're going to want to eat more food. It's going to be harder to actually control the food that you put in your mouth. Steps. Don't neglect your steps. 10K, eight, depending, like I work with a lot of like busy professionals and guys that are obviously running big 7-figure businesses. 10K steps is the bare minimum I do recommend to get. And from a longevity standpoint, but from an actual standpoint of reducing body fat and body composition, steps is literally one of the best things that you can do. You're burning calories, it's easy, it's not taxing on the body. If you're doing a HIIT class, you might burn a load of calories, but you're fatigued, appetite increases. Whereas if you just get your steps in and have a good solid baseline each and every day, it's a fat burning machine is what it turns you into. The next thing, track on the weekends. We're in routine, everything's going well, but then the weekend comes, we want a dopamine hit, we want to go for food. We can still eat out. There's nothing wrong with eating out, but you need to be very, very intentional with the foods that you are eating, especially in a dieting phase. What we need to understand, right? Getting to 10% body fat, though that especially towards the back end of a dieting phase, it can be a little bit more extreme and it's not meant to be sustainable. So if we're in this unsustainable approach, let's say for 6 days of the week, but then 1 day of the week we go overboard, what's happening? You're pulling yourself out of that deficit and you're going to end up hating the process because it's so extreme towards the back end. Then boom, you're over consuming 1 day and then you're in this constant cycle. You're not reducing as much body fat as you want. You're just going around and around in a circle and then you end up giving up. Okay? Yes, as I mentioned, it's a little bit more extreme towards the back end to truly get conditioned. But again, what does that do for your mentality? It turns you into a fucking savage because you do shit you don't want to do. So again, it's just not about the body. It's about the discipline that you gain. It's about the confidence that you gain with yourself from following through on what you're saying. So that final phase, if you are eating out, or guys that travel for work, you have to have specific places that you can go to. You understand, you go for low calorie options, high protein salads, protein shakes, whatever is around in your area, you have to plan in advance. If you're going out for a meal, go for a steak, a baked salmon, a grilled chicken breast. Making these smarter options towards the back end of a dieting phase is what will allow you to finish the dieting phase and then into the next one, which is the reverse phase. And this is the most important thing ever. You can get, like, just to relate back to the holiday approach, if you diet down really aggressively, you get to 10% body fat for your holiday, but you don't reverse out of that, you're back to square one within a couple of weeks. I've done it before. I've done photo shoots. I've done extreme diets. If you do not nail your dieting phase, everything that you do up until that time just gets completely undone within a couple of weeks. And I promise you, that is the most disheartening. It's actually, mentally, it is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever went through before, because I've got into peak shape, but I didn't control the reverse afterwards, and I was literally fat. And I'm not even joking, fat. I done a 12-week dieting phase, I got into peak shape, and I was fat within 4 fucking weeks. So don't make that mistake. And what I mean by reverse dieting, as we diet down, your output's higher, your nutrition is lower. So let's say we finish your dieting phase, your output's high in terms of your cardio, your steps, your nutrition's low. What we then need to do in that reverse diet is slowly bring the cardio down, slowly bring the food up, get you to that maintenance position. And that's when you can maintain year round. Then it becomes easy. So as I said, you only need to do this once. You need to get into shape once. Once you reverse out, you can then maintain that for life. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through the 4 phases. So the first thing is the priming phase. We need to prime the body. We need to prime the mind. We need to lay the habits to actually build upon and just lay a foundation. It's like if you go into a dieting phase trying to build a body with a cracked foundation. You're trying to build a house on a cracked foundation. You're trying to build it on sand. You might get a little bit up, but that house is going to crack. It's going to crumble. It's going to fall. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to lay that solid foundation first. And that's what we do in the priming phase. We eliminate the vices. We install the correct systems and standards to actually build upon. Okay, and this is where we sit at that maintenance, build muscle, reduce body fat. Then the next phase we do is we go into the peak phase. This is where we do go into that little bit more of an extreme phase that, as I said, towards the back end, it's not sustainable. But again, guys, it's not just about how we look. It's about how we feel, how we operate on a daily basis. There's high standards that we hold ourselves to. That peak phase will turn you into a different fucking savage. I promise you. You get to that 10% body fat. You do the internal work, as I mentioned as well. So you're, at the whole time, you need to recalibrate your identity. You need to align to the outcome of the high level operator, 10% body fat, peak shape. You need to align that identity. Then you do the physical work. You get to that 10% body fat. That's the peak phase. Then we go into that reverse phase. As I mentioned, you bring the food back up. You bring the output back down. There's no rebound, no regression. You can actually maintain shape year round. Key. Then we transition into that total control phase. Again, this is where you're in more of a performance phase. I have a lot of high-level guys that are business-orientated, so they bring their body through the whole system. They get out to the back end, and then you design your day, your calendar, your routine, your nutrition. You time your nutrition in and around your deeper work blocks, and then in and around your training. So you can actually be mentally sharp, your cognitive function is bulletproof, and your physique, you can either go into a slight surplus, or you can just maintain. It depends on you, it depends how much muscle tissue you want. But a 6-month period there, that will turn you from a fucking average dude into a fucking 10% body fat, aesthetic physique, high level operator. And you become the man who can actually close that gap between the goals that you have in life and how you show up in each and every day. You close that gap and you can go after whatever it is you want. Because as I said, it turns you into a savage. I love this shit. I can't live without this shit. This has literally transformed my life. From being stuck on a construction site, in a job I hated, skinny fat, out of shape, drinking every weekend, vices taking over my life, to now living in Marbella, lived in Dubai, lived in Spain like for the last 5 years. It's like, it turns you into a different person, which then allows you to live a different life. Okay, because the goals that you have right now, outside of the gym, we have goals that we all want to hit. But if we don't become the man that can actually hit them, we're never going to hit those goals. So ask yourself this, like in the next 6 months, if you keep doing what you're doing right now, are you going to be in better shape? Are you going to be closer to those goals that you have, the vision for your life? If you keep doing exactly what you're doing right now. Only you can answer that. But if not, do exactly what I said. If you want to work with me, there's a link below. You can click it. We can have a chat. If it aligns, it aligns. But if not, do exactly what I said. Go through those 4 phases. Come out the other end a different man. And I promise you, you will be living a different life. It's as simple as that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace and love. I'll see you in the next one.